Over 1,000 insurgents, gone. No warning, no mercy, just fire from the sky. In the dead of night, Burkina Faso launched a drone strike so precise, so devastating, that it has left the world stunned and the Sahel forever changed. This wasn't just a military operation. It was a message, a declaration, and a revolution in African defense strategy. But how did a country once overlooked, once dismissed as vulnerable, pull off one of the most calculated and ruthless ambushes in modern warfare? It happened in the Arbinda corridor, a region long haunted by insurgent forces, armed militias, foreign-sponsored operatives, and chaos that plagued innocent citizens. But that night, everything changed. 3 unmanned drones, equipped with advanced targeting systems, hovered silently above the zone. Below, Burkina Faso's elite ground units waited information. In under 30 minutes, more than 1,000 militants were neutralized. Smoke filled the sky. Radio signals went dark. What had been a safe haven for terrorism became a graveyard of broken weapons and abandoned ideology. And the world took notice. This operation wasn't random. It was the result of months of military restructuring under President Ibrahim Traoré. Since taking leadership, Traoré has shifted the narrative. From dependence to dominance, from plea to power. Under his watch, Burkina Faso has built drone programs with indigenous innovation, formed intelligence networks across West Africa, and most importantly, said a no to foreign control and yes to African sovereignty. This strike was not just an attack, it was strategy. A masterclass in modern warfare led by African intelligence, powered by African will. International media couldn't ignore it. Newspaper headlines called it the most ruthless ambush in the Sahel's history. But what shocked the world even more was who did it. Burkina Faso. Not NATO. Not the US. Not France. But a country building its own legacy under fire. Think tanks are now revising maps. Security councils are calling emergency sessions. And citizens across Africa? They're watching closely, inspired, hopeful, proud. This is bigger than Burkina Faso. This is a signal to Mali, Niger, Ghana, and beyond that Africa is entering a new era. An era where African nations defend African people, using African-made tools on African terms. The drone strike in Arbinda wasn't just the end of an enemy. It was the beginning of a revolution. One where insurgents don't get to hide anymore. One where nations no longer wait for Western approval to protect their borders. One where the skies now belong to the people. So the world asks, how did this happen? The answer is simple: leadership, vision, unity, and the will to say, no more. Burkina Faso has drawn a line, not just in sand, but in fire. A message not just to insurgents, but to every foreign power that ever underestimated the rise of Africa. So now we ask you, is this the start of Africa's military awakening? Is this the new future of self-determined nations? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this message with those who believe Africa's voice can no longer be silenced.
Welcome to African Spotlight 24, your premier source for news and current affairs from across the continent. We're glad you're here. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe, like, and turn on notification to stay up to date with the latest news and analysis. Your support helps us reach more people. Disclaimer: the content of this video is based on credible, publicly available information and is intended for educational, analytical, and informational purposes only. African Spotlight 24 does not promote hate, violence, misinformation, or political unrest. Our goal is to deliver thoughtful insights, highlight local voices, and encourage informed conversations throughout Africa.
This is the story of the deadliest night in the history of the Sahel region of Africa. On one night alone, over 1,000 insurgents were wiped out. No warning, no mercy, only fire from the sky. 3 drones backed by ground forces turned the Arbinda corridor into a war zone of smoke and silence, he said, and I quote, "The operations conducted by our defense and security forces in the north have just ended. In fact, it helps you maintain a distance from the battlefield." On November, the day after the alleged massacre, Hundreds of people gathered in a market for funeral rites. They were burying the victims of an earlier attack, the ones who died before the November night. Suddenly, rockets fell from the sky and hit the funeral site. According to survivors, at least 300 people were killed, perhaps many more. This report appeared in the Washington Post, so the big question is, who will answer for their deaths? Ibrahim Traoré may call it a victory against the enemies of the state. His supporters may celebrate it as the biggest elimination of terrorists in Sahel's history. But it also gives you the excuse to wipe out entire communities. We've told you about it before. How American drones killed dozens of civilians in the guise of taking out terrorists. The U.S. military said that they were gathering intelligence at the time. Unlike during conventional wars, where there is a clear line between the attacker and the attacked, things are different here. When a drone drops a bomb on a village, it's hard to ascertain who was really the target. The world may never know the identity of the 1,000-plus dead militants. We may never know if they were all non-nationals, if they were all hardcore extremists, or if they were just scapegoats. In January 2023, a similar U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan killed 10 civilians. The U.S. military said that they were under the impression that they were targeting ISIS terrorists. All of these attacks happened far away from home. What we're witnessing in Burkina Faso is perhaps the first such incident to happen in Africa. The U.S. calls them collateral damage, we call it murder. The same could be happening in Burkina Faso. More than 1,000 terrorists have been neutralized, dozens of motorbikes and other vehicles destroyed. The jubilation across the country was palpable. People celebrated in the streets. Who will answer for the families who lost multiple members? Who will answer for the children who lost both parents? We know that the use of drones has dramatically reduced the civilian death toll in many conflicts. But the flip side is equally true. When used recklessly, drones can mow down civilians with ease. It doesn't matter if they're packing food or firewood. A direct hit means certain death. They distributed sweets and red caps, the color of the national flag. But behind the scenes, questions are also being raised. Questions about the nature of the attack, whether it amounts to a war crime, whether civilians were caught in the crossfire. It was an ambush, one for the history books, the likes of which have never been seen before. But how did Burkina Faso pull it off? Once seen as too weak to defend itself, now the small landlocked country is being praised as the new king of the deadly game of drones. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm the host. The attack happened on the night of November. More than 1,000 suspected insurgents were killed. Dozens of motorcycles and pickup vehicles were destroyed. It took place in the Sahel region, a vast semi-arid expanse that stretches across the borders of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Their intention was clear, to capture the town and take it over completely. But what happened next was not part of their plan. The Burkina army had been expecting them, ready for them with a special surprise. The army used 3 drones that dropped powerful bombs on the unsuspecting militants. The bombs killed more than 1,000 of them. Dozens of motorcycles and pickup vehicles were destroyed. And all of this happened in a span of 3 hours between 9 p.m. and midnight. This region has been the scene of a growing jihadist insurgency for years now. Attacks on villages, kidnappings, beheadings, suicide bombings, even massacres have been reported here. The latest attack was in this town called Arbinda. On November, 2 separate groups of insurgents entered Arbinda from the north and the northeast. Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, took to Twitter to share the news. You see, drone warfare is a tricky business. It allows you to strike at your enemy without risking your own soldiers. Here's what we know so far. In August 2022, for instance, a U.S. drone strike in Syria killed 19 civilians. And what makes it worse is the lack of accountability. Hundreds of bodies were dumped in mass graves. Most of them were never identified.